Career development and exploration is the catalyst to discovering a professional passion and desire. It's a founding and guiding principle which guides you in determining how you want to make and maximize the most professional difference. For Jacqueline Smith-Jordan, she's been a lifelong learner and a facilitator of opportunities for a diverse and inclusive segment of our population. She's a career development practitioner and learning facilitator for Agilec, where she assists individuals with disabilities and other marginalized groups in finding, maintaining, and thriving in their dream jobs. She joined me this week to have a conversation about career diversification, inclusion, and diversity. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. So Jacqueline, if you're ready, I'll welcome you to the program, and I'm excited to talk to you all about your work and career. Great to see you this morning, and thank you so very much for being here.
Yeah, you as well, Kevin. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be here and have this conversation with you.
Absolutely. Now, Jacqueline, I know that for you, you consider yourself a lifelong learner, and you're sort of taken your passion for learning and careers and sort of molded it into a career that allows you to help people. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about all the great work that you do.
Yeah, sure. Wow, that's a tough one. I have always had a passion for helping people, like you said. Some of that I've been able to do personally through volunteer work in my life, helping students with their homework after school. I volunteered as an English literacy tutor for adults who had that as a goal, and always had jobs where I was able to kind of help people in an indirect way. But as I moved along in my career, I wanted to have, a greater sense of helping people, I guess, in a more direct way. And that led me to employment services and training, which is what I do now. When I first got into employment services, I was a job developer for a new program in Scarborough, helping young people with developmental disabilities to find work. So my job was to advocate on their behalf with employers and help them find meaningful work and connect them to employers who are going to support them. And it allowed me to work with other populations as well, like, racialized individuals and new immigrants and young people who'd been touched by the criminal justice system and older workers. So I have had the great fortune, I consider it a blessing, to be able to do work every day that really helps to impact the lives of other people, whether personally or professionally. So that's why it's a passion, because I actually get to help people in what I consider a significant way in the work that we do in employment services.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that if you make a difference in the lives of other people, the rewards you get are tenfold over individually, aren't they?
Yes, I agree. 100%. I absolutely agree.
Now, Jacqueline, I know that we have a mutual passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So tell me, for you, what does that mean when we talk about infusing folks with disabilities and other marginalized groups into the workforce?
Yeah. I think for me, one of the keys of increasing diversity and equity and thinking about inclusion of individuals, whether it's an individual with a disability or a racialized individual or some other equity seeking group. If I'm thinking about from an employment services standpoint, which is really what I'm involved in every day, one of the keys to being successful in that area, I would say, is education, like educating employers, which is how I got into this work, like I said before. So I started off as a job developer and was responsible for advocating on behalf of individuals with disabilities to find them meaningful work. And I get to do that still every day in a different capacity. So I think employers and hiring managers and recruiters, if we can educate them about, you know, what it means to employ someone with a disability and maybe look at the business case for employing someone with a disability or a racialized group or an older worker or someone else who is generally marginalized, and really look at the benefits, not only for that specific individual. I think as employment service providers, we're typically focusing on that individual that we are helping to find employment. So we are advocating on behalf of that person to the employer, highlighting what that person's strengths are, what their abilities are, and getting employers to not focus on what they think the limitations are or what their misperceptions are about this particular group or demographic of individual. And then really talking about, you know, the benefits of having a more diverse workforce. So if everyone in your workforce looks the same and have had the same experiences, it doesn't necessarily lead to a lot of creative thinking or productivity, versus if you have individuals in that workforce who have varying abilities, who are different ages, who are different ethnicities, or have different cultural backgrounds, or look different or are different genders, then you now open yourself up to a wide variety of thinking and creative thought and collaboration of new ideas. And that's definitely beneficial to any employer. One of the things that, you know, I learned coming in as a job developer when I started in the sector was not only talking to an employer about kind of the human element of hiring someone with a disability or any other kind of marginalized group of individuals, but also the business case for that, which employers tend to be very interested in. So there are a lot of studies that show that you know, many of the people in these groups have lower turnover rates, or are less likely to leave their jobs or call in sick. You know, some of those accommodations maybe that employers worry about, oh, will I have to accommodate? How much money am I going to have to spend? Really educating them on the fact that generally an accommodation costs less than $1,000. I think the number is 500 to 1,000, which isn't huge in the grand scheme of things. And that oftentimes that accommodation that they make for that one person can prove to be beneficial to other people in that workforce, like to other coworkers as well. And then looking at what is the positive customer experience, or how do their customers perceive them now in a positive way because they have a more diverse workforce, and does that increase their customer base? So also educating employers on kind of the business case for why it would be beneficial for them to have a more diverse workforce, I think helps with, you know, moving further along with equity and diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, doing your research on me, I'm sure you found out that I used to do the same work that you
Yes.
are currently doing. So I'm like, reduce trading costs. Yes. Reduce turnover. So I was going check in my head. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was one of the things when I was looking at your story. I was like, oh, Kevin and I have something in common, that you were doing similar work as a job developer. Yeah, so I know that you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we both understand is the importance of building relationships,
Yeah.
in life, and any aspect in your life that's important, but it's particularly important when you're advocating for career development. So tell me about the importance of establishing and developing relationships in the work that you do.
Yeah, great question. Relationships are important really across every sector, but in employment services, I think there's a couple different elements. There's establishing the relationship with the client that comes in for your help, and they're usually in a really vulnerable place in their life. Throughout my career, I've gone through a couple layoffs as well, and so been unemployed, and it's a really vulnerable place. You're not sure, how am I going to pay my bills? Am I going to lose my home? Will I be able to eat next month? These types of things. So having someone walk in at that particular stage in their life or dealing with those circumstances, being able to see that person and hear where they are and see um, them as a unique individual is one of the ways to build relationship and to gain trust with people and to assure them that you are here to help them and really to be able to provide practical strategies for how you're going to give them that help to be successful in their job search. And then if we think of the other end of that, which is building relationships with employers, we are trying to establish meaningful connections with our employers so that they see us more than just someone who's going to refer a job-seeking candidate to them, but someone who's going to be a business partner, someone who can do a needs analysis with them and determine what their actual operational needs are, and then explain the services and resources that we have to help meet some of those needs, whether that is a job-seeking candidate that I can connect that employer to who meets their hiring and recruiting needs, or whether it's another program that we offer or training that we offer that will help that business partner to meet their needs. So definitely building relationships is key to the work that we're doing in employment services because of all the different level of clients and customers that we deal with. So to do that successfully, you have to develop a relationship built on trust and really seeing the uniqueness of the other person that you're dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a large part of what you do is building the teamwork and the persistence at a high performance standard. So I'm wondering if we could dive into that a little bit this morning.
Yeah, the importance of teamwork.
Teamwork and the importance that it plays in sort of building a high performance standard with the employers you work with and the employees as well. I'm curious.
Yeah, absolutely. No one person is an island among themselves or upon themselves. So even, I know now a lot of us are kind of either working from home or working isolated because of COVID, but you still likely have a team of people that you're working with, either in other departments or external from you. So they could be business partners, they could be community partners, they could be other service providers. Your clients are also part of your team. You need to see them as contributing members to kind of their own personal and professional development. So they are also part of your team. So having effective teamwork means that you recognize the strength of all of those individuals, how they can contribute to whatever the team goal is. So if we're using employment services, for example, and the goal is to help a client find meaningful employment that allows them to use their best skills and allows them to feel purposeful, then what are the strengths that I have that I can bring to that person's journey? Can I help to allow some self-reflection in that client so that they can be a contributing team member along that journey, and then working with the employer to figure out how can they contribute to that individual's journey, so that we all end up having, like, hitting that mutually beneficial goal so that everyone wins. And that's really across any team. It's identifying what the goal is, what are the strengths of each of the individual team members, how can they each contribute, because we all have things that we're great at, right? And so kind of maximizing those strengths to hit that particular goal. I think that's really the importance of teamwork in terms of the work that specifically we're doing in employment services.
Yeah, absolutely. And from a more broader perspective, what do you think is the key to establishing sustainable career diversification for folks with disabilities?
Career diversification. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said before about education. So, and I'm thinking about that in two different ways. I'll start with the employers. So educating employers, again, on the business case of having a more diverse workforce and the positive effects that that's going to have on their operations, whether economically, whether in terms of the morale of the individuals working within their organization. But I think also education on the client's end. Sometimes when you're in that vulnerable state, or if you are someone who is part of an equity seeking group who feels that you have been particularly marginalized for the majority of your life, or in this particular set of circumstances in terms of seeking employment, that can do a number on how you're feeling about yourself mentally and emotionally, and trying to educate and help that individual in terms of, you know, their mental models and what they believe they can do and what they believe that they can accomplish. One of the things I like about your message when you are speaking is about kind of finding your passion and being really aware of what your strengths are and operating from your strengths instead of operating from what you perceive to be or what may actually be an area of weakness or limitation for you. So I think those are, I think that's part of the key to that diversity is really focusing on the strengths rather than the limitations, and the value that that client can bring to the employer is going to be key. And again, I'm going to go back to that starts with education. I think there's a lot missing in terms of educational pieces for employers and recruiters and individuals who have like hiring capabilities. You know, we're hearing right now in Canada that there's a shortage of workers, but there's also a large population of individuals within these marginalized groups, either racialized individuals or persons with disabilities, who are seeking employment. And so what is the disconnect? Why are employers ignoring a real viable part of the workforce and not considering these individuals for employment?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Jacqueline, as you know, I do a lot of speaking engagements for employers and the positive benefits of hiring people with disabilities. So, for any employer who may be watching this, I'm going to give you the floor and sort of give me your sort of, for lack of a better term, I'll say a sales pitch to an employer about the positive benefits of embracing diversity at work. I'm curious, what would you tell an employer who would want your perspective on that matter?
About embracing diversity at work.
Yeah.
Again, I would go to, if I'm meeting with a particular employer, I would go armed with some statistics maybe that are relevant to their sector or the type of work or operations that they run specifically. But there are some general studies and statistics that show that we'll use individuals with disabilities, because that was the group that we were talking about before, that, as I mentioned before, they have you know, lower turnover rates. They tend to have a more positive work ethic. Having individuals with disabilities within a workforce has been shown to increase the morale of the other individuals that work there. accommodations for that individual, helps that individual to have a sense of independence, and they are now able to contribute perhaps a little bit more so in terms of economic ability, ability to purchase and do all these things in the community that maybe they didn't have before. Also, really thinking about what I mentioned before, which is opening up your workforce to greater creativity and ideas. If everyone in your workforce looks the same and has had the same experiences, you are limiting yourself to some of the solutions that you could potentially come up to or come up with for business problems that you may actually have in your operations, versus getting a diverse group of individuals together who have different life circumstances. Oftentimes individuals who have had a disability or are part of a marginalized group have greater adaptation skills and have had to build resilience in different areas of their life and have strategies that could be useful for that particular employer, for not only their colleagues in that workforce, but perhaps that could be useful for products that can be developed for their customers, or services that can now be developed for customers as a result of these creative ideas and different ways of thinking about all of these problems that may exist, or services or resources that could be created that don't come about if everyone has the same way of thinking and has only ever had the same level of experiences. I think that's what I would say to employers, and also for them to realize, I think sometimes there's a fear of how will I support someone who maybe I haven't had the opportunity to support before. And one of the things that we do is help employers through that process. So if we maybe are placing an individual with a disability with an employer, we offer ongoing support, on-the-job support to that candidate and also to the employer, to make sure that that's going to be a successful journey, that it's going to be mutually beneficial for both parties involved. And sometimes employers are not sure of, what am I going to need to do to support that person? What is the accommodation going to be like? Will I need to teach them differently or orient them differently? And part of the service that we provide helps them through that process so that they're not going through that alone. And they have individuals who are educated and knowledgeable who can actually help them through that. So that's one of the other things that I would mention, that it doesn't have to be, there doesn't need to be fear around how am I going to work through this process alone as an employer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to also ask you about business and community engagement because, I live by the tenet when I talk about career exploration that life is a constant game of networking, and I'm sure you would agree with that. So I'm
Yes.
curious to ask you about the importance of networking and the importance of making the community sort of engaged in the process. How important do you think that is?
I think having the community engaged in the process is extremely important because they are one of our key customers, right? So if we're looking at generally the two groups of people that we serve through employment services, it is the community and also business owners or employers in that same community. So being able to community members, it can mean a variety of things, but generally there is some marketing or outreach to the community to let them know about the services and resources that actually exist. If I use Agilec as an example, so the services and resources that we have to offer to those community members, ensuring that all of those community members have equal access and opportunity to use those services and resources, to their own benefit or to the benefit of their entire community, that they're able to contribute perhaps to those services and resources. So perhaps to contribute with feedback about different level or types of services that speak to their specific needs. and to feel that they are empowered through the use of those services and resources is important. So I think, I think that community engagement piece is extremely important, because generally with employment services, that is largely the client that you're serving. It's your community. And then business and employers also are part of that community, and also a client base that we're working with. So that engagement, being able, like I said before, to reach out to and meet with employers and understand what their business needs and what their business needs are, and create that kind of trusting business relationship so that they see us as a business partner, helps with meeting their specific needs, and that's a way to engage them as well. So there's lots of different levels of engagement around community and business partners specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you work with people in a career counseling situation, I always try to ensure that I help them explore different career options, because maybe that's how they'll discover what they're passionate about, right? So tell me about the importance of helping people sort of explore the career options that are open to them. I'm curious.
Yeah, helping people explore. So there's a variety of different things you can do to help someone explore. I think one of the first ways you want to start with a client is help them to identify some of their skills. Sometimes we're not even aware of kind of the vast array of skills that we have. So what are their skills? Maybe helping them identify some of their values around work. We have a workshop that we offer at Agilec called What Do I Have to Offer? And we do a great exercise around values exploration and identifying our work values, which many people have never done before. And maybe looking at, your particular personality and what kind of work environment would be best suited to that personality. And what are the things that you enjoy doing? So you can have a skill in a particular area, but if you don't enjoy doing it, you probably don't want to pursue that for a career. There's lots of different assessments that we can help to administer to clients to answer some of these questions for them, their values, their preferences around work, their strengths, what they love to do. And then those assessments can give them, results of suggestions for particular careers or sectors that they could consider based on the answers to those questions. And then we recommend that the person do a little bit of self-exploration as well, and some research. And there's, I know a lot of people are working from home or kind of doing things online right now. So there's a lot of online places that individuals can go, like the job bank, for example, a government website, to get information on trends in particular emerging sectors, and what are the skills or education that I need if I'm considering a particular job. Or I did an assessment and it said that, based on my personality or value preferences, this type of job would be of interest to me. And then doing some of that research to get a better understanding of what that job actually entails. Maybe what are some of the skills I need to develop for that job, and rates of pay. What is the outlook for that job in particular geographic areas, depending upon where I live. And all of those things help people to kind of explore, right, careers that they can now consider that maybe they didn't consider before. And one of the things that I think is important, my colleague and I just did a session on this, is that, we're hearing a lot about the Great Resignation, which maybe is kind of existing more in the US than Canada. I know there's a shortage here, but some people are saying that it's maybe more of a great reflection, right? That people are reflecting on the type of work they're doing every day, and is that bringing them joy? And so people are now maybe leaning more towards purpose-driven work. And so that can be another area that we help our clients to really consider. We spend so much time at work, 8 or more hours a day, 5 days a week, or sometimes more than that. Wouldn't it be great if it's something that you feel that gives you a sense of purpose or contributes to your well-being? So those are some of the areas that we would encourage our clients to really reflect on when they are making career decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you're currently working on a new project focused on virtual workshops and designing more opportunities for people to explore career options. So I'd love if you could tell me all about it.
Yeah, so last July, so I guess it's 6 months now, our organization Agilec created a project to kind of, review our existing workshop offerings and whether they were meeting the needs of our clients and were there new topics that we could be offering, either to meet the needs of different clientele or really just to empower them with different skills and knowledge. So I came in to do that in July and have been, creating and developing some of those new workshop materials. And some of that is based on what our clients are telling us they need, or what we're pulling from some of the feedback that we're getting, or reports that we're pulling, looking at different client demographics. So one of the ones that I created was around resilience for job seekers during COVID, because looking for a job in general is a really difficult thing to do, never mind trying to do that in a pandemic where you're socially isolated and maybe you can't network the way you traditionally would, and all these other things. Another one that I created was job search for older workers. So as you can imagine, ageism is a real thing, and how do we combat ageism in our job search as an older worker looking for employment. And recently just did a session around disclosing disability, right? Which is a personal choice, but if you choose to disclose, what might that look like? What might you share? When might you disclose in the job search process? And if you're working and want to request, accommodation or need of additional supports, how might you have that conversation? What might that look like? And then next week, we're introducing an effective customer service workshop. I've been reading a lot the beginning of this year about employers in Canada saying, as a result of kind of what they've been seeing with happening with COVID and service, that customer service is becoming one of the top skills that they're looking for in individuals that they're hiring. So we're going to chat next week about what some of those skills are that we can use to provide great customer service, and how we can promote those skills in our job search. So just some of those things. And then also, getting speakers to come in. So we're also getting guest speakers from different areas that provide programs or services and resources that are going to be helpful to our job seekers. So we've had like Service Canada has come in, Skills Ontario. So different partners that have strategies and programs to share that are also going to be useful. And so more to come. I'm excited about what else we're going to offer this year through that new project.
Yeah, absolutely. And my final question for you today has to do with your own personal and professional legacy and how you might want that to be defined.
My own okay. Yeah, that's a great question. As I'm getting older, I'm starting to think about that a lot, like what I want my legacy to be. I've heard this saying, I don't know like where it originates, so I don't know who to attribute it to, but it basically says, this life isn't about you. It's about what God has called you to do for someone else. And that really resonates with me. And so I would want my legacy to be that I didn't only focus on myself in life, that I was able to use my skills and my abilities to somehow have a positive impact for other people. And we have to realize too, sometimes we think positive impact or impact has to be huge. Like it has to be, I'm on a stage talking to thousands of people, or I'm the person who, finds the cure for that disease or whatever it is. But sometimes it's a kind word to someone. It is listening and allowing someone else to feel heard when no one else would listen. Sometimes it's helping someone shift their mental model about what they think they're capable of doing or what they deserve, either professionally or personally. Just kind of shining a light for people. I'd want that to be my legacy for people when they think about me, to smile and think of some story, either personally or professionally, where I helped shine a light in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Jacqueline, tell me, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
They can reach out to me on LinkedIn. That I know that's how you and I connected, Jacqueline Smith-Jordan, or jsmith-jordan at agilec.ca.
Fantastic. Well, I really enjoyed having a conversation with you about career diversification. As you know, it's a mutual passion that we both share.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate your time, energy, and efforts in the space. And on my behalf this morning, it's most appreciated. And it was delightful to engage in conversation with you this morning.
You too, Kevin. Thank you. I appreciate that you had me on today. This was awesome.